Welcome to Paru Zing's Appraisers on Purpose. In this season, we journey through the realm of technology and connect with valuation and data analysis experts who are at the forefront of industry transformation. We dive deep into how technology is redefining asset analysis, identifying trends, and enhancing professional valuation skill sets. Join us as we meet with leading minds to discuss the revolutionary intersection of technology and traditional processes with our host, real estate investor, entrepreneur, and chief appraiser, Michael Hobbs.
Welcome back. We are so excited that you're joining us. Once again, another just interesting and just a creative peer. I'm so excited to share with you. But before I do that, a little bit of suspense. Just invite you, of course, to hit the like button. We're excited that this will be coming here on YouTube here shortly, not just your regular channels for podcasts. And please continue the generosity of sharing out to a friend or two or peer who could also gain some insight, some encouragement, and some takeaway value. I am really excited today to be with Nick Conteduca. Nick, welcome, and thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Man, you're welcome. You're welcome. Well, we always ask that important opening question. Nick, so were you born this way, or how did you connect or get into the valuation profession?
Well, I think it just stems from, most of the stories. So for me personally, born in Chicago, born and raised. I had
Chicagoan.
That's right. Yep, through and through. So enjoyed all the winters here. But yes. Yep. So first thing we did was graduate high school. After that, didn't really have much direction, where to go. So I had a couple IT jobs and playing poker. That was like my main thing, right? I was really into poker. And then I didn't really have much direction. Had a brother-in-law who basically said, hey, I'm taking these appraisal classes. You should probably do it. And I didn't know anything really what it was, right? He told me a little bit about appraisals. Went and took the appraisal classes for, it was about 5 weeks. And then got, passed those classes, eventually passed the test, and then went on my journey.
That's phenomenal. So does that mean you retired from the World Series of Poker?
No. I've been pretty active with that. That's kind of a hobby. So I think in my analytical skills, though, that's for sure.
Yeah, very much so. Very much so. So it's a family member, essentially, that says, hey, I'm doing this. You might want to take a look at it. What appealed to you about getting into these appraisal courses as opposed to some of the IT stuff you were doing before?
Honestly, I really had no appeal to get in the appraisal industry, just I needed to do something. And then once I got into it, passed the test and linked up with a supervisor, which that was extremely difficult to do. Okay. So, I could touch on that for a minute, but in order to, find somebody to actually go under, and I feel like we're having the same issues today, is that I had to ask around for somebody who knew an appraiser. That appraiser had asked around for somebody who's hiring as a supervisor. And after, going about 3 or 4 people, I finally landed with somebody. But once I got into it, so I went through the training, went in the office for what seemed like maybe 3 months. And back then, it was a lot of just, hey, run these comps on this property, right? Just not really do the full end-to-end, almost just a kind of a guinea pig.
Yes.
So, going through all those steps kind of led me to realize that I need to get off on my own and kind of do this myself. So, spent time there for about a year and kind of ventured off, on my own and just trying to, make it and learn throughout just screwing up. That's really the main thing, was making the mistakes and learning. Because back then you didn't really have the forums, the YouTubes, people to talk to, and especially being in the industry and not knowing anybody, I had no resources.
Yes.
So just really learning by making mistakes. Unfortunately, that was the best way to learn for me.
Nick, that's a very common experience. If I didn't know better, you just shared my whole entry into the profession as well. And that's really the genesis for this podcast. This was really hard, like stupidly hard. And, being someone who, for what it's worth, Nick and I haven't known each other. So interesting, we had similar paths. And I was like, it shouldn't be like this. Obviously, we and I both have survived and thrived, but boy, it was hard. I sincerely hope that the opportunity for people to hear your path and continue these type of conversations with the Perusings podcast opens up more possibilities for others so that talented people just don't have to face such obstacles.
No, it's unfortunate too. And a lot of the same obstacles back then still exist today. Just the unknown.
Yeah.
There's a lot. What do I do? What do I do next? Who do I talk to? And especially with the climate now, very difficult to get a supervisor. And I see it from, their perspective too, is if I hire somebody, one, I have to try to get the work for them, which is art in itself,
Yes.
right? And two, I have to take time away from me doing my actual work to train, right? And answer questions. And in order to train the right way, you really need somebody to sit with. So I guess my advice to anybody kind of getting in the industry, if you want to learn, just sit behind an appraiser and watch, ask questions, because there's not really too many resources out there, but with change in the industry, things are coming, hopefully.
Yes. So interesting. So here it's a brother-in-law that mentions this thing about the appraisal courses. You take the appraisal courses, you, as they say, you pound the pavement, you find a supervisor, and it sounds like you started out by doing comp analysis. Is that kind of where you got started when you first got in the profession?
Yep, that's about it. Doing that, they sent me out to the field in some rough neighborhoods. Went and did a lot of appraisals, kind of try to get my experience. Driving all over the place. A lot of miles. And then I think after the 2 years when I was able to get certified, I went and took my test and said, I want to start my own business. I don't really, because like the supervisor I was under, it's just, I seen so many inefficiencies in the way reports were done. And I just, the way my mind works, I just couldn't comprehend why they did things in certain ways. And that kind of led me to want to start my own company and try to basically learn how to do it on my own. And not to mention, it helps when you get the full fee. You start adding it up as opposed to getting a split fee or, a percentage of the fee. Getting a full fee looks a lot, more exciting.
Yeah, that's different. So when you look back to the time when you came in the profession and you got to learn from the supervisor, was it 100% hands-on at that point in time?
No, not at all. Really, they hands-off. It was a lot of just, they were extremely busy. It was at a time when it was very busy. 2000, what?
Yes.
4 and 5, I believe. So it was really busy then. Yeah, it was busy, and there wasn't really much time. And I feel like quality went out the window, right? It was just get them in, get them out, get them in, get them out. So I didn't really have much training there. So, when I finally did get certified and went on my own, I looked at trying to expand by just getting clients. And that to me was, that was eye-opening. But it led me to figure out kind of how to bring work in. And, I feel like, especially in today's climate, a lot of appraisers are kind of facing similar challenges. Where do I get work? What do I do?
Yes. Yeah, it's clearly a challenge. So, you've gone down the path that a number of people have gone down. To your credit, you also saw things that you're like, hey, this isn't right, or it shouldn't be like this, or I could do it better. What were some of those early things that you took on when you decided to leave and go out on your own?
Some of those things were, well, first I had to figure out how to actually start a company. That was number one, right? So
true.
So
true. I mean, a chuckle, but
yeah. So I have a unique, career path. I went straight into the appraisal industry. I didn't go to college.
Yeah.
I basically, I call it asphalt university, right? I learned everything kind of just trial error.
I like that. Asphalt university.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So just, talking with people, trying to really understand what to do. And back then you didn't really have the YouTube and Google as much to search to figure out things. So just trying to make it work as a company. So as I, started to learn appraisals on my own, did them on my, myself, I realized, hey, I could, do a lot more appraisals if I had more help. Right. And so that's when I started understanding that I needed a team of people to start producing more work, because I got to a point where I was bringing in more work than I could really handle personally. So I'm like, so I need more people to help me. And the way I did that was by talking to family and friends, because I didn't know anybody in the industry, right? So I needed to tell family and friends, hey, appraisal thing is kind of cool. Maybe you should go out, get your license. I could get you work. I have some. And that's how I kind of grew my company organically. And it was through just bringing people I trust. And I think that's really one of the key things is trust.
That's that is indeed a key thing. And you touch on what brought about that opportunity was your ability to go get work, something that a lot of people are actually not very good at. What did you find at that point in time? Granted, it was an abundant time, but what did you find was your kind of success formula to help build up a clientele?
Well, so it's funny because one of my friends, actually, when I was going to get him to talk to him about the appraisal industry, it turns out that he was taking appraisal classes too. And at that point, we kind of
really?
It was a weird thing. So we kind of partnered up together at that moment. It was about 2-3 years in. So, our main thing was, how do we get work?
Okay.
We're young. We have no credibility, as the industry. So we actually went around the streets of Chicago, identified, I think I went to MapQuest at the time, and I identified all the
Okay.
mortgage companies in the Chicagoland area.
Yes.
We literally drove around, walked to every
Yes.
mortgage company, and walked in the door. And we walked around, and at that time, they were packed with loan officers. It felt like almost like a stock
Yes.
market environment, just on the phone calling, that's what it felt like.
Nick, it was, man.
It was crazy.
Crazy.
And,
Yeah,
we
I bet
walked in
that.
there and just passed out our card out and essentially said, hey, we're available whenever you need us. It doesn't matter time or day. We'll get an appraisal done within a day. And we overpromised as much
Really?
as we can to basically
Yeah.
put the pressure on us to deliver. We said, if we get the work, we'll figure it out. So yeah, it's literally just relationships, just walking in. And we were fortunate to meet some of the top loan officers in the area, which led us to getting on their panels,
Yes.
building that relationship, and slowly just growing it that way. That was really the main source way to get orders, and this was pre-AMC too.
Of course. Yeah. Nick, that's such a great testament to perseverance.
Yep.
Like you said, just getting out there and throwing your, as they say, throwing your hat in the ring, and you're like, all right, we're hats in there. Just call us in so we can come claim it and perform. And to use, I think I heard you say that you told them, hey, anytime, anywhere, you calling us, we'll get it done, and our commitment is to turn it around in a day.
Yep.
That is an impressive commitment, especially during those just frothy times.
Yep, exactly. And, then we get to the point when, okay, now we start actually getting work, right? Now, how do we get it in a day?
Yeah.
So then just started thinking about
Yes.
how inefficient like the system in place was, right? So I came up to a point where I'm like, we need to separate the inspection from the analytical side. Because if I'm out in the field doing appraisals, I can't produce reports or manage a pipeline or talk to customers, right?
Wow.
So around that
Yes.
time, I started bringing in more family and friends, and I was able to get them licensed and, go out and actually do the inspections of the homes. So, collecting the information, taking the photos, obviously, and, getting the data back to the office. So, as we kept going through these type of processes like that, we needed to become even more efficient, because if they're out in the field collecting this information, taking the time to wait for them to get to the office and actually give it to us was another time constraint. We're like, how are we going to get the information from the field to the office in essentially real time to kind of produce them faster? So that kind of led me down more the technology route and trying to come up with solutions to get this information back quickly. So one of the biggest pain points at the time was photos. Users had to, use a digital camera or use their phone, bring it back and upload it. So it led me to kind of figure out how to develop and the mobile app was specifically for photo collection, labeling and photos. Because that to me is one of the longest processes of the whole thing, is actually taking the photos and labeling them. So it was an app that allowed the user to take photos and label them and get them right back to the office in real time. So that was a time saver there. Number 2 was actually typing the report and getting data into the report. Right. So, back then there wasn't these wireless computers where you could access the internet anywhere. So we had I forget what they were called. They were called hotspots, right? So we had to purchase hotspots.
Yeah, hotspot. Oh yeah, the hotspot.
Yeah, we had hotspots, and we actually had our appraisers bring actual computers out to the inspections and work off a laptop in the field, so they could enter data right in the report.
Smart.
So we were essentially doing reports in real time, and this is at least 10 years ago. It was great because the quicker you get an order in, the quicker you get a new one. That was my whole thought, is like, how do we get more work? We got to get it in faster. Can't sacrifice quality on it either, too. So having a back-end office is really key.
That is indeed the key. Like you said, using the hotspot, get the data, enter it actually in real time. And then, like if there's a queue, at one point, I remember, client name just slips me, but there was a particular cap. So like, hey, we're happy to send you work, but like, this is the cap on the number of assignments you can have out at any one period of time. So it was literally like a library book.
Exactly.
As soon as you return a book that you checked out, you can check out another book. And it sounds like you guys were continuing to look at how can you eliminate constraints so that you can increase the completion of work without a sacrificial lamb called quality.
Mm-hmm. Yep. It was trying to determine how your hourly rate, like how much can you do? You got to make your time valuable, right? Every minute, every hour is so valuable to do. So even just managing the order in itself became very complex and
Yes.
complicated. So if you're, and this is at the point when now we go further down, we're dealing with AMCs now. So in order to generate work, in order to get work from AMCs, you have to be signed up for every website out there, receive orders in so many different ways, whether it's email, text messages,
Yes.
somebody calling you, they want reports different certain ways, the notifications you get, it becomes very, very overwhelming. So in order to do that, you need a system to manage all that stuff. So we were using, you know, a really nice spreadsheet, which never stops evolving. And then we're like, we need to invest.
No, it doesn't.
No, never. And I mean, it made me realize how great Excel is and all the things you can, you know, actually do on it. And that led me to kind of create an order management system application. So, you know, having an order management system to manage all your orders, your team, finances, things like that, having the mobile app in the field to collect information and just a real-time completion of reports, all that together, and having the staff to support it really kind of propelled the company to grow quickly and kind of get to a point where it, you know, kept expanding, which was nice.
Did you stay in the Chicagoland area, or did you expand your footprint?
No. So yeah, we did expand. So we got to a point where other markets started picking up, right? And we're like, man, if we could duplicate this system in other markets, it'd be even great because our system can work anywhere, right? It doesn't matter where it is.
Yes.
Right. It's just gaining competency in a market that we know we can go in, right? We're not going to just jump into some market. So at that point, Colorado, Washington was really booming. We had some clients that were there. We spent some time, you know, interviewing some agents, learning about the market, actually going there. And we started signing up for work there, and we started generating work. But the question is, how do we do it now? We don't have an appraiser there. So what we would do is we were generating maybe, I don't know, say we get 10, 15 orders in Colorado, right? We would plan that, we would schedule them out for the following week, hop on a plane on Monday, fly there, inspect all the properties over a 2-day period, fly home, and, you know, repeat the process in multiple states.
Write them up. Yeah. Yep. What a resourceful way to go about it. Like I said, it takes time, develop your proficiency in an area, and that person, you know, they get to know Aurora, for instance, or they get to know Golden, or
it's the same concept.
Really get the DTA area.
Yep, same concept. Just
that completely makes sense.
Right, and I mean, the probably the hardest thing is honestly, it's not really learning the markets. I think it's learning the MLSs, the data, the way the data comes in. That to me is probably the most complex thing to understand because nothing is standardized. The way you just look at a screen and know, you know, what data point to look at, how they separate GLA, bedrooms, bathrooms, different features of each area. So there's a lot more to it than just actually the market. I think that's the easiest part as an appraiser.
No, that's a great point. And you touch on something about how you were growing, and obviously trust is a big factor. So you started with friends and family. I can only imagine you must have a massive family for the amount of growth you had. Or at what point did you start to go beyond friends and family?
I don't think I did. We didn't really grow that big. I mean,
wow, that's impressive.
No, appraiser wise, like the amount of appraisers was not that big because we were so efficient. We were able to do a lot for a little, right? I think there was only about 5 appraisers. Okay. And we had an admin staff about 4. So I think we only hired 2 outside people who weren't actual friends or family. And the funny thing is I was trying to hire somebody to help with data entry because it was just so time consuming. So I was interviewing people, and my only criteria was if you can type over 100 words per minute, right? So
that is not a simple criteria, Nick. I mean, let's just for people who've never measured their typing speed, that's impressively fast.
Yes, yeah. So I mean, myself, I was really fast. I was probably around there. So I wanted somebody who can type very quickly.
Okay.
Yeah. So I was able to find somebody, and he was a machine, just looking at the data, typing in over and over. So things like that helped us progress there. But we got to a point where, it's great getting in orders, it's great making money, but it's exhausting. As you start growing too, you got to realize that you need a work-life balance. It was nonstop, and it gets very overwhelming and exhausting. And as you keep growing, it starts opening you up to more problems too. You know, one of the biggest eye-opening things was when, you know, I got questioned by a client. They said, how did you do 2 appraisals in Illinois and 2 in Colorado in the same day? And I had to show them flight receipts.
Sure.
And the rent-a-car to actually prove that we were in 2 different markets the same day because they couldn't, you know, believe it. And I'm like,
they couldn't get their head. They couldn't wrap their head.
No.
Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah. So,
wow.
And honestly, it got to a point where it became almost robotic for me in terms of typing appraisal
Mhm.
reports. It was just came so natural to me where, you do things for 15 years, it becomes, second nature,
Yes.
right? And I wanted a new challenge.
Yes.
And that it led me kind of exploring different paths and different opportunities.
Well, that's encouraging to hear that unlike others who might kind of fall into that, second nature, some people may even say mundane. I heard you mention robotic in terms of the response to it, the dulled or muted response to it, that you started to look around. What was on your mind and what did you start to consider?
Well, at that time, I just got married, had my first child, and I realized I need sleep. Can't be working 8 a.m. till midnight every day, right? There were times, yeah, there were times. Honestly, I
Yes.
think we had a couple appraisers who actually worked. I had one appraiser who worked 36 hours straight. I don't understand how he was.
Oh,
Yeah,
gosh.
he
Ooh.
was a little nuts.
Hmm.
But yeah, just the amount of hours was very difficult. So kind of led me to see what else was out there, and this goes back to kind of the networking approach and how important I kind of feel about it is you never know who you're kind of come across and how they're going to
Yes.
affect you, whether now or later in life. But I came across two appraisers who had a company that was
Yes.
in the same area as I was in, and
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
remember talking to them a few years back and realizing that, hey, they work in a similar approach in a team fashion. They break out the report. They have, an inspector, a typer, a reviewer, people doing revisions, people answering phones. Let me go talk to them, kind of see if there's any opportunities.
Yes.
So, I went there, we hit it off, kind of realized that we're on the same wavelength of how we see the industry. And we came to a point where, let's combine our companies. So I took my company Anywhere Appraisals at the time,
Oh,
partnered with
wow.
a company called Value Centric.
Hmm.
Yeah, we partnered up,
Yes.
and it was a perfect match because it allowed me to remove myself from the day to day of running a business and focus on my business instead of
Yes.
working in my business, right? So, I went from doing appraisals
Yes.
consistently all day, every day to focusing on growing their company using, the technology I know and the workflows and just my experience and kind of trying to implement it in them. I always said like that company,
Yes.
their main focus was high quality, right? Customer service. I was more speed,
Yes.
get the report out.
Hmm.
So combining speed and quality in one it's a really great combination to have.
That is a powerful combination to have because that's not always achieved. And if it is, a lot of times something gets
Absolutely.
compromised. So how did that new experience for you go? Something most people don't get the opportunity to do, which is stay in touch even over longer periods of time with like-minded professionals to step into the unknown, which is, hey, we're gonna create a new family, so to speak.
Yeah, I mean it's not difficult. I mean something a company you built up your whole life, you're really reluctant to let it go, but you got to see the bigger picture and how to scale. And you're not going to scale
Yes.
alone. It's very, very difficult. So in order to scale, you need other people to help you do that. So, doing that, which was great because implementing the systems we had in place and just their, administration and working together as one, we essentially over, a 3-year period, we were able to essentially just go to be one of the largest independent appraisal firms in the country, which was, really
Yes.
amazing to do because I went from, 2, 3 states to 20 states in a matter of like 3 years.
Yes.
And it just shows the power of, putting minds together and working together to kind of do that. So, it was really great to do that. And it gave you a different perspective on the industry as a whole, too. When you work alone or not necessarily alone, but with less people, you don't know what you don't know. And when you
Yes.
start expanding and having an open mind to work with other people, you realize, hey, he might be right. There's actually more out there that can actually help me. Maybe I am doing this wrong. So yeah, doing something like that was a big
Yes.
step, but it's rewarding when you build something that kind of grows really in a great way, and it helps a lot of people too.
No, I really appreciate that. You were in what you were sharing. It reminds me of the African proverb that says, "If you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go
Yep,
far, go
exactly.
together."
Right on.
And I really hear that that
Yeah.
came together for you. That's really exciting. So here you are, you get an opportunity now to be focusing on the business as opposed to be focused in the business. You're part of this expansion. How did your roles and responsibilities change?
So yeah, my main thing was just I've always had a passion with the technology, right? And just from building my company and all these things I've done along the way, it's coming to fruition that it's actually going to benefit me now in this role, right? From, like I said, with that spreadsheet, dealing with a giant spreadsheet.
Are you running a real estate firm? Are you looking to grow your firm, streamline your operations, or prepare for an exit? Don't miss this opportunity to work with Michael to figure out your business pathway to massive success. With a growth system for business that leverages opportunities and removes obstacles that Michael has successfully taught to thousands of entrepreneurs globally. Michael's guidance will help turn aspirations into reality. Michael is a renowned figure in the real estate and business coaching worlds. As one of only 5 individuals worldwide for Entrepreneurs Organization, Michael serves a dual role, training business owner participants in the EO Accelerator program, while also upskilling EO members' impact and capacity to lead multi-million-dollar businesses. Get more out of your business. In working with Michael, you can achieve the growth, profitability, and life balance you desire. With Michael, it's not just about business growth. It's about redefining your purpose for business and for your life. If you are interested in working with Michael, contact him via his LinkedIn profile or email him at michaelh@paru.com. And now back to part 2 of the episode, where we explore new technology trends that will shape the world of real estate appraisal for years to come.
Now my understanding of how stuff works behind application gives me the opportunity to, expand things. So my main role essentially was, hey, let's make their appraisal process faster by using technology, data, any way we can to kind of get appraisals done in the most efficient way and not sacrificing, appraisers' time and just keep growing. And the thing is too, my main thing is that I've been through it all. I've been an inspector, I've been on my own, I've been as a team, I've grown a company. So I get every perspective that an appraiser looks at. And my main goal is to have appraisers make more money and work less time. That's really where you want to be. So doing that.
Nick, that sounds terrible. I don't know who in the industry, I know I'm interrupting you, but who in the industry would ever want to do such a thing? I mean, make more money and work less time? I mean, aren't you supposed to make less money and just work an exceedingly amount of hours? I mean, love it. Absolutely fantastic. I love your commitment and your focus.
No, I mean, it sounds so simple, but it's the truth. Even if I talk to a lot of appraisers and a lot of them I come across, sometimes you'll say something like, maybe you should, let's just say, use a mobile app to collect photos and put them in a report, right? Well, I've been using my phone or digital camera for years. It takes me 10 minutes. I plug it in, I upload it, and I drag and drop them. Great. I mean, that's fine. You save, it's 10 minutes. But do you take into account all the other factors that might happen? Your computer might crash. You might get a phone call during it. You might have to go eat, right? There's so many things that disrupt that workflow. And if you want to do things, and especially when it gets busy, if you want to do things quick, you're going to need some systems in place. So, a lot of these efficiencies are not built for an appraiser doing one a day. If you do one a day, you really don't need, great, right?
Doesn't really matter.
But if you want to scale and grow, you need to get systems in place, or else you're going to hit a bottleneck like we experienced in 2020 with a lot of the appraisers. They didn't know what hit them, and they were all very overwhelmed, and it was really tough to manage.
Yes.
And it's funny. It's like the industry is really weird because you're stressed when it's really slow, especially now. A lot of appraisers are extremely stressed. Yeah. But you're also stressed when it's really busy. So it's like never unstressful. And that's why if you're slow right now, my suggestion is take the time to figure out a system that's scalable and figure out what you need to do. If you can do 10 appraisals in the same speed as you can do one, it's really important because it's going to come. It's going to come before you know it, and you want to be ready.
I think that's a great point and an important call to action for people in the profession, whether they've been there for a while or they're pretty new to it. You mentioned your interest in systems and technology. We didn't really dig into it, but I'd love to hear your approach towards, you mentioned we started with Excel. Like, hey, we just started building out a bigger and bigger spreadsheet, and then you continue to learn more technology or more capabilities of Excel. Did you stay with Excel or did you migrate to something else before you got involved in joining up with another firm?
No, actually, it was built an order management system. So a web-based order management system, essentially, where you go on the web, it pulls in your orders, could kind of customize any workflow
Yes.
you have. Because, like I said, I was in a team environment, so customizing who does the inspection, who does
Yes.
data analytics, how much they get paid, when it's their turn to do it.
Yes.
There's a lot that goes into understanding the process of it. And it's not only that too, it's understanding from the client requirements. I think that's one thing that's really underestimated in this industry is, especially now, you get a lot of people who come in the industry and they try to start an appraisal company, but they really haven't experienced what clients require of appraisers, right? Because some clients allow trainees to do appraisals, some don't. Some allow just, certified appraisers with 5 years experience, some don't. And then you get into AMCs, their requirements, right? So you have to abide by client requirements, appraisal management clients or requirements, and even your own in-house requirements too. So managing the product or the appraisal you're going to spit out at the end of it has to coincide with all those requirements. And it's very, very complicated to manage all that as you grow with multiple appraisers.
Mm-hmm. That is true. That is true. So did you just go on like Craigslist and find somebody to do this for you? Or is it you just have a penchant and you picked up one of those coding for dummies and suddenly you built a system? And this is probably a place where a lot of people get stuck. They're like, yeah, I know something should be different, but I don't know what it is or how it is. How did you bridge that gap?
Yeah, so freelancers. So there's many websites out there that allow you to find freelancers, whether it's freelancers.com, Fiverr's a big one, Fiverr, Upworks. Those are just three of them. But essentially, I went out and found some developer, and I explained to him exactly what I wanted, and got built. But the thing is, if you're going to do it, it's not like you say, hey, I want this and go. This is a full hands-on, almost daily explaining how to do it. Just finding the right people and being able to communicate what you want is half the battle. If you can communicate an idea, you kind of get anything built. I encourage you to kind of price around too. Don't just grab the first company that comes, but you want somebody who you can communicate with consistently to help you kind of build it, whether it's a mobile application, a web application, any sort of idea. Yeah, the communication is key.
That's a great point. And like you said, your willingness to take some action into a space that you had a sense of what you wanted to accomplish and knowing that clearly somebody else needed to get it done because that was not something that necessarily you were capable of doing.
Exactly. It's the only way.
Got that. And then was it love at first sight and just a magical moment of success by going to working with freelancers to build this? Or was it fits and starts or like throw in the towel and start over? What was your journey?
No, it was a learning. That's what you call it, is learning process, right? Because as you're building things, I feel like a lot of people look at what do I need to fix right now to fix this problem, instead of looking at the main outcome you're trying to achieve, right? So that's a really big problem that I think I faced was I was having things done to put a Band-Aid on it, right? But down the line, that Band-Aid doesn't apply to that certain problem you have at that point. So you're constantly making edits, making changes, trying to create a freer kind of workflow. So going through all those like exercises kind of led me to, where I'm at now to understand what to do and how to look at things in a different way, as opposed to just trying to fix one problem at a time.
I think that's a helpful piece. And one of the fascinating things, and you and I have talked a little bit about that outside of this conversation, but there really are a lot of peers out there who, like you, Nick, experienced a problem. And they're like, I'm not going to stay stuck at this problem. I'm going to find a way out. I'm going to build a way out. I'm going to break down a wall. I'm going to work with other people and create solutions. And for any number of reasons, I think there hasn't been in a healthy way, a spotlight been broadcast and shining out there enough on so many people that just kind of unknown right now. And it's really be inspiring for others to really hear about that. So, it's kind of stepping into that space in terms about inspiring and technology and opportunities. That firm you were a part of, things changed, didn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah, it really did. And going through that company for, 3.5 years or so, we actually were attending a lot of networking events and trying to get our name out there. And that's one thing I guess I want to touch on now. I've experienced this, and I see it in forums too, is these conferences and networking things that people go to. And I've always had the same approach was I used to go to these things and walk around and be like, this was completely pointless. Why did I waste my time coming here? Walking around, you meet a few people, right? But now these networking
Yeah.
events, one person can change your life. One
Yes.
person you meet. So if you went to 10
Yes.
different networking events and only one of those panned out, it's a win. So if I could go
Mhm.
back and change one thing that
Got
I've
it.
done is I would take more time to take the networking events a little more serious, to go actually talk to people, learn about them, and understand kind of what's going on. And that kind of led me kind of what happened with our company is we went to a networking event and happened to, talk with
Mhm.
a company that was there. And, I think
Yes.
fast forward about a year later, that company ended up acquiring us and buying our company. So that company was, the company was
wow.
Option. They were an
Congratulations.
Australian-based company. They had a great vision.
Mhm.
And, just it took some time to, get it through. But, seeing what they could offer and seeing where we wanted to go, because I understood from my previous company is you can't grow without a team. In order to get to the next level, you have to have a bigger team.
Yes.
So if you want to keep moving on
Yeah.
up, it's the
Yes.
only way is to find the right people, whether you're, bringing people in organically or hiring more people, or just finding somebody with that same vision and using, what they've learned and kind of trying to apply it in your model and fix everything, that's broken for you and use it to, keep growing.
I think that's such a great hands-on experience you've gained. So here you get this opportunity to work now with a company who has if you will, more than an international presence. What was that like, taking on, growing responsibilities with a company that is growing their presence in another country?
Personally, I loved it because it gave me a chance. Because of the vision I have of the industry, speaking with majority of the people I speak with, they don't really see it the way I see it. So when you meet somebody that sees it the way you see it, it motivates you and wants and gets you out of bed in the morning and excites you and you're ready to go. So when they came,
Yes.
and just give you a little background on them, they have an appraisal company in Australia and they're producing appraisals in 2 days, residential appraisals very quickly, right?
Wow.
And, and a lot of people
Yes.
say, yeah, but that's a different market. It is, but they've had those challenges in the past they've overcome that we're currently experiencing today. So it's almost like they had a blueprint of kind of how to get to that point. So, when I heard that they were doing that, they were bringing our company on, like to me, it's like I couldn't
Yes.
find a better match because I felt like I had the secret recipe to do that here, right? I feel like I know exactly what needs to be done in terms of order flow management, data, analytics, inspecting, just talking with, just appraisers in general, just understanding what needs to be done. So it gave me a path to kind of do that. So I came on as SVP of Tech Innovation. So my main thing was focus on the technology for the appraisal firm and in Australia
Yes.
too. So I was bridging the gap between the two countries in terms of helping align the technology here in the U.S. and
Yes.
talking with the Australians to help make them understand it too, because they didn't really understand it as much. So I turned to more of a subject matter expert for them and more of a technology expert here, I guess.
Wow. No, very much so, Nick. And I think of many things, one thing that really stands out for me is if I was to think about the number of people you talk about meeting and greeting and going to events and going to courses and learning and collect some names. And I would say you're the first person I've met with that title, which is totally impressive. I think that's a great sign of what's coming in the industry. And I hope more people have those kind of titles and those type of responsibilities for creating the future, as opposed to, as you've talked about, just kind of being stuck in that, what might start to feel robotic in nature type industry
Exactly.
activity.
Yep. You hit it right on the head.
Yeah. So, given the role that you've got now, where do you spend most of your time? No, I'm not saying Australia versus US. I meant kind of like in terms of focal point for that type of innovation and helping
So
lead
that
the
was
company.
what 2021 we were acquired. So I spent a year and a half in that role, just focusing on the staff firm and helping them become more efficient and helping implement some technology things. And that doing all that kind of led me to where I'm currently at now is senior product manager of Sense Software Group. So what that is it allowed me to transition from the appraisal fully in the appraisal industry to completely in the technology industry. So if you look at my whole career path, it was from just appraiser inspecting to typing to kind of running a company to focusing a little bit on tech, still running the business, running more tech with less business, and now fully tech. So the cool thing about this role is that now I'm able to help build products for all appraisers, as well as lenders and banks and any type of vendor out there, whether it's a real estate agent, things like that, because what we're building is essentially valuation tools, and that could kind of apply to all types of industries.
I think that's so encouraging and really continues to highlight the breadth of opportunities that exist in and around valuation. And I think, like you said, done the inspection, done the site collection information, meet with the client, meet with the point of contact at the property, whatever it might be. All these different pieces, done the research, verified sales, like all these pieces. And when you gain a strong understanding of the valuation methodology, you get an opportunity to get involved in many maybe obvious and not so obvious opportunities. And it seems like you've come across one of the maybe not so obvious opportunities for people who have an appraisal background. Love to hear a little bit more about some of the, and I think you touched on it. If you would, I'm going to pause, ask a different question. You had shared earlier, like it's great to align with people that have a similar kind of vision for the industry that I have. What's the vision that you have, if you don't mind sharing?
Yeah, sure. Just a vision of making this whole process to become an appraiser easy and be able to actually get work in an efficient way and produce a report in an efficient way, right? Just simplify the whole thing. Because honestly, the longest process of the appraisal is dealing with the data in the MLS, public record, and any source you get it from, right? So
yes,
if you're able to get to a point where an appraiser can easily search for a property, right? But they can search by the correct parameters as opposed to trying to assume what it might fall in, right? So, for instance, I live in Chicago. The square footage is typically not displayed for condominiums, right? So when you're searching for square footage for condos,
it's just
what do I have to? I have to search by 0, right? Now imagine if you had a database with accurate information, how quickly you can search for a property. I could search exactly a 2-bed, 2-bath, 1,300 square foot condo and get results almost immediately, right? And then I want to take those results and I want to put them in a way to look at those sales, analyze that information, make any necessary adjustments, and give my analysis about what the property is worth to the client in a way that I feel is the most, just the best way to explain to them exactly what it's worth instead of adhering to these reports we're stuck in and guidelines, right? So my vision is envisioning a way to produce a report in a formless world, if that makes sense. Because right now we're appraising in a box.
Yeah.
We're appraising in, hey, you have to fit it in this form, do it this way. But we should be able to collect data in a home in the most efficient way. We should collect data the same way every time. You shouldn't have to collect data a different way for different types of things. So collect information.
Good point. Yes.
Get in a report and deliver a product to however that client or customer wants it.
That is fascinating. And that's some of the work that you're doing right now. So Nick, given everything that you've been involved in, I mean, you've had, what's beautiful about the podcast is we hear so many different avenues that bring people into the profession. We hear so many different paths that people have traveled upon. No one has had a path like yours. And that, of course, builds to this question, which is, of all you've seen and experienced so far, what are you most excited or encouraged about over the next 3 to 5 years?
I'm actually every day I'm encouraged and excited to get the technology we're kind of building in Ascent software group with our software. It's called Jaro, right? So we're building this technology that I'm able to take all these ideas I've had in my mind for 15, 20 years in the industry and actually put them to reality, right? So our system consists of this order management system that allows lenders, banks, and AMCs to connect with appraisers in one single system, right? And not just only communication, but the whole product itself. Yeah. So, the way I envision this is that a way that an appraiser can get an order almost immediately, all the information they need about it, right? And take that file, complete it, and send it directly to the client in one seamless system. And the way they do that is not just with, one system, but it's driven with data, standardizing data, analytics, support. It's just changing the way appraisers work and making them understand that there's better routes than what's out there now, right? Because it's very, I know how stressful and difficult it is, to actually work in today's environment because you're working with so many different third parties, MLSs, data tools, programs, softwares, and it's very overwhelming. And you don't know until you actually try to get training on it. And as we touched in the beginning of the podcast, where do you get training for it? You have to try to find somebody. And you and me both know it's not easy to do that. So yeah, I'm just hoping for a way that we could kind of simplify this whole system where it makes sense for the end user, the appraiser, the lenders, the banks, everyone involved.
That's fantastic. And what a worthy pursuit. That's excellent. And as you said, you love what you're doing. Each step along the way has been you stepping into some experience that is to a certain degree unknown, but you have enough of a sense or an understanding that it aligns with what's important to you. And to your credit, keep making good things happen, Nick. That's really impressive. Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm looking forward to next year too. I mean, it's going to be really interesting to kind of see where the industry takes us next year. So I'm hoping that,
Yes.
it's better for the appraisers out there, but word of advice is get your systems in place, understand that it's going to get busy again. And when it does, hopefully you're ready.
Well, that is key. As they say, build the bridge before you need it kind of thing. This is exactly the time to be sharpening your skills and tightening things up. As you said, cleaning up and maybe implementing some processes and systems to, every little bit of time. I loved how you said it. You can, if you don't account for your time, someone or something else will. So be mindful of that and allow the ability to mine it for greater personal satisfaction, greater profitability, whatever is important to you, as you touched on. Absolutely. Well, Nick, I just want to say thank you so much for joining us for this episode of the Perusing's Power Values podcast.
Michael, thank you for having me. It was really great talking to you. And I look forward to all your other podcasts coming up. Like I said before, I think you're doing a great job. Keep it up. And looking forward to kind of see where you grow too.
Thanks. Me too. We'll both be excited about the future together. It'll be great stuff. All right, friends, with that, we're going to bring this episode to a close. As I mentioned, so many powerful takeaways, so many great insights. And, for me, I really appreciate Nick's perspective. It doesn't have to be this way, but not sitting still and putting the energy into just talking about it, but instead putting the energy into doing something about it. As you heard through his growth trajectory, his alignments, and then ultimately his newest opportunities, helping lead an international company with impactful technology. I have no idea what might be in it for you, but I want to thank Nick for creating that spark of possibility for others. So again, Nick, thank you. Make sure you share this with at least one other person because we are all better together. With that, we bring this episode to a close. Thank you so much.
Thank you for joining us in uncovering how technology is reshaping the landscape of real estate valuation and appraisal. Would you do a favor for someone you may never meet to influence a future that is worth building? Please scroll down and like this podcast and share your comments. Stay engaged with us on LinkedIn, YouTube, and your favorite podcast platforms to catch every moment of innovation and expertise shared. Got an idea or a suggestion? Share your thoughts and questions with us. Let's continue to grow together, embracing the tech evolution that is enhancing our industry's effectiveness and efficiency. Until next time, remember, in the fast-evolving world of real estate and technology, being a part of the change is what sets you apart. Keep creating the future by striving for excellence and innovation.